Hi, everybody. Welcome to Fireside Adoptees Constellation Group. We are here with Barbara Medina. I'm excited. We're doing an interview about the process of her writing her book called Fixing Broken. The theme of this interview is the heart behind the process. So, yes, show it again, Barbara, please. And that is her book. And quick, Barbara, Amazon, is it available on all of the normal?
It's available on Amazon.
Okay, excellent. So, should you wish, it's available on Amazon. Let's see. In this interview, we're going to be covering the process she went through, like exploring the emotional, the legal, the publishing aspects, and everything that went into making her book. I'm so glad you're here, Barbara.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here too.
Excellent. Yay. So, when you stop and look back and think, "Ooh, how did you know it was time to write your book? Like, what made you say, okay, now's the time? And was there, were you in a season that just really encouraged you, or how did you know? I would love to hear that.
It was a few years after I had started the process of discovering who my birth family was. My found my birth father first, and then about 18, 19 months later, found out who my birth mother was. And I really wasn't at all prepared for what that finding out this stuff would put me through. It put me through so many emotions and so many thoughts. And I went through a hard time and I was struggling, to be honest. I was really struggling, grieving what was lost, what never was able to be. Um, and surprisingly, it brought back a lot of memories of my growing up in my adoptive family that was, in my situation, was a very dysfunctional one. And the memories were coming back, which was also bringing a lot of despair. And I had started therapy because of this. And the therapy was getting me nowhere. And I just kept feeling this urge to write. And I don't know why, because I've never written anything for anyone else's eyes to read other than my own, and I just kept feeling like I need to write. I need to write. And it was actually the day after my birthday. I had gone out to eat with friends and I was like, I'm not in a good place. And I recognized it and I thought I need to do it. And the next day I started to write. So it kind of came out of a place of being very wounded and needing to do something. And it was just putting it down and getting it out was the start of the book.
Mm, that's, yeah, so it sounds like it was a natural just progression of what was already inside and just letting it out.
Right. Like, okay, I'll try. I'll see if I can do this. And then it just took off, took a life on of its own.
That's great. Were there moments when you were writing the book that you felt like quitting or giving up? Like,
Mhm.
how can you explain that process to us, or what you went through in regards to?
I'd have to say quite the opposite.
Mhm.
Once I started, I could not stop. I the first probably half I wrote very quickly, and it kind of just poured out, and it was almost an out of body experience. And I was just blown away by what that was like to write all that. And then I got to the point where I would work all day, and I couldn't wait to get done with my workday so I could write. It was my go-to, my healing time to sit down with my computer and I'd go out my screen porch. It was summertime and I would sit out there till it turned dark out and I would just write. And it was like, I looked forward to it. So no, I was very, very motivated from
Mhm.
something beyond me. I've always been the kind of person when I set my mind to something, I do it, but this was even like on steroids.
Oh.
So that was
Sounds
my
like
experience.
sounds like you were ready, right?
I guess.
And
It was time.
oh, that's amazing. And did you find that how did you, when you were writing, for when you think of how you were before, when you started and when you finished, could you
Mhm.
see any? ways in which the way you viewed yourself differed, or like how you saw your own journey
Hmm.
through the
Oh,
process of writing
yes.
on paper?
Yeah, especially the beginnings of the story of my story. I write a lot about my childhood, my
Mm.
start, and what I did know, the information I had, which was non-identifying sealed records, like so many of our adoptions from back in the day. Um, so um, I I noticed what I was feeling a lot as I was writing it is a lot of ahas, like, oh, okay, oh, that's why, fill in the blank. Um, and even writing it from the perspective of me accounting for my adoptive parents who raised me and what that experience was like, I think I was able to see them with softer eyes, have a softer heart. Uh, kind of people hurt people, as they say, and having a little more of an understanding from an adult perspective of what some of that was from,
Mm.
and putting it in its right place. And then for the most part, I often felt just like the more I wrote, the more the weight was lifted, like just kept feeling lighter, and um, I could breathe again. So there was therapy totally going on, very cathartic therapy going on during the writing process.
Oh, that's amazing. And did you find when you were writing, were there parts that were kind of lighter and heavier in the story,
Mhm.
or were there parts that maybe you thought about including but decided to keep for yourself and not include in the book?
Sure. Well, yeah, there were things, when you're writing something like this, you really have to think about what do you include, what do you not put in. I mean, you have to really, um, pick things that tell the story, that add to the story in a way that makes sense. So there were a lot of things I could have put in, but I just chose not to. And there were some things I put in to save, um, you know, someone's name, and not to give a bad name, not to make people think poorly of someone. And then there were very hard things that I wrote about, and I will admit that a couple times I threw my laptop across the room as I was writing.
Well,
Um,
I'm glad it
you know,
survived.
having fits of of, I don't know how to explain it, like justice. It was almost like the keyboard was justice for the little girl that went through so much of the stuff I was writing and sharing and recalling. And it brought like almost like a righteous anger in me. Like I was like, I wanted the book to be justice for what the child had gone through in ways. So there were times I got angry and I screamed. A couple times I screamed, a couple times I yelled. Both of my adoptive parents are gone. I talked to them beyond told them what I was feeling. So, yeah, there were some really hard things to write about. But once I wrote, I felt so much better.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. When you write about like the harder things, where did you tell people, adoptive family, birth family, friends, you were in the process of writing a book? And if so, how did they respond? If they've read the
Yeah,
book, have they responded differently to you? Like, what's that whole?
yeah. So I really didn't. I kind of kept it my little personal thing for most of the writing aspect. I did share with one of well, actually, my best friend, my very best friend. I did share things with her, and she encouraged me to keep going. Um, but I kind of kept it to myself until it was about ready to be released, and then I started to share.
Mm.
And um, you know, the people that I wrote about, and we'll get to that part about, having to have name releases signed. I covered myself in all of that. But yeah, there were probably a lot of people that were surprised when I said, hey, I've written this. My brother, who I grew up with, my adoptive brother, I actually sent him a copy before anything was available on it. And I sent him, and said, hey, and he was like, what is this? He was totally shocked. And he read it, within a few days, and he said I couldn't put it down. And he said, wow. And he was very impressed. And he said, I'm so glad you could do that, that you
Oh,
could purge through this experience. And he could relate to a lot of what I wrote, and he remembered too. And I think it actually was helpful for him.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
Yeah,
I'm so glad to hear that. While you were going through this, because you're giving your heart on paper,
yeah.
what did you, or if you practiced any self-care or things that helped keep you grounded while doing it?
You know, like I said earlier, writing was my therapy. So it seemed like the more I wrote, the better I felt. So I kind of just dove into it. I really did. Um, and then other than that, I just kind of functioned. It's you know, do your day work, you know, finish what you got to do, feed the dog, do your household stuff, get through the days. So it was kind of like I was just super focused
Hmm.
on the book. And I think that's because writing the book was so healing, and I needed to really be in that healing time.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. And while you were in that time, did you ever find that you needed a break, or did you ever feel that the feelings of fear, or how did you work through those, or was it really you were just like tell me.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I had any fear at
Hmm.
that point. The fear didn't come till later, but the only times I took breaks was there was an experience where I was able to go and meet family members on my birth mother's side. And so I was able to write about everything that had happened up to that point. But then I had to take a quite a long break and to experience that. I didn't even know if I was going to experience it. And then when it came to be going and living that experience, I felt like I need to include this. It's a huge part of the healing. So that was the only break, was because of I hadn't done it yet.
That makes sense. When you were like, as far as the legal process, like,
Mhm.
were there any legal considerations? Were there any concerns on ownership or protecting your work? Can you walk us through that?
Sure. So I do include people in my book that were very pivotal in my life story. And what I did is after I got to a certain point where I knew I was going to go all the way with this book and have it finished, is I reached out to these people and I told them, obviously, I've written a book. And they were like, oh. And I asked them, I said, I would like the honor of including your first name. That I didn't use any last names.
Mm.
But I said, if you are uncomfortable with that at all, no problem. I will use a pseudonym name. And I would say probably a little more than half were like, no, go ahead, use my name.
Oh.
And then the ones who didn't feel comfortable, I did do a name change just for the book purpose. The ones who did give me permission to use their name, I did have a lawyer draw up a name release
Mm.
and had that sent so that they could sign it just in case. Now, these are people I love and trust, and not that, but down the road, if someone said, "Hey, I'm in this book, and I want to sue the person for this much money because they used my name," it just frees me of anything like that. And every one of them signed it, no problem. They were happy to sign it.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it made me think of like, especially people's own opinions can change in regards to maybe they suddenly feel like, well, maybe this is defamation of character
Right.
or whatever, even if it's not, that's great that you protected yourself legally.
Yes. Yes.
When you were releasing the manuscript, was it easy? Was it hard? Like, what were your thoughts on having somebody like basically reading your heart?
That was the scary part. So yeah, once I got it kind of to a place where I felt like, okay, I think I've got this where I want it. It's conveying the story the way I want it to.
Mhm.
I reached out to about 8 people that are very close to me and asked them to read it and sent them a copy of the manuscript of it. And the feedback that I received is really what caused me to push towards publication,
Mm.
because the feedback was just so positive. People were, well, they were shocked. They were blown away. Some of these people who I've known since being a very young person were like, Barb, I never knew. I didn't know this. I didn't know about that. And I said, I know, because I didn't talk about it. It was living deep down, and I pushed it down because it was hurtful. And so then there was that part of some of these people were kind of like, I want to come and hug you more, and so there was that. But it was a little scary to divulge some things that were very personal, very things that you really don't maybe want other people to know about you, for saving face and making sure that everyone thinks that you've got your life together. Um, but I just knew that I needed to take the risk to share it anyway. And the feedback was so positive, and every person I think who read it just said, you've got to get this out, this needs to be shared, this needs to be shared. So that's what caused me to look into, like, whoa, how would I do that? Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. That just that reaction. Were
Hmm.
there, so that sounds like was that kind of like the reaction you were hoping for people that would know you
Yeah,
especially, right, and read it.
it was more than I could have hoped for. I mean, I just thought people might be like, wow, but it was it was over the top with what I expected. And it was a level of acceptance that I think really I needed in the
Mhm.
in the adoption in my adoption experience, to be accepted by people who I know and love, and things about me that I didn't have. Like I said, I didn't have one person say, oh, or well, this or that. It's like they were just like, whoa, I couldn't put it down. And that's the when I look at the reviews on Amazon, that's the one that I read the most of, that could not put it down, could not put it down. So that makes me feel so good that it it pulled people in, and provided some sense of healing and feeling like you're not alone.
Mhm.
This is stuff that we often deal with. And me too, it's like a me too thing on a different level.
Oh, that's amazing. What would you offer, what a bit of advice or thoughts would you offer for somebody, perhaps even in this audience right now, who's thinking, I'd like to write my story, but I'm scared. I'm scared of
Yeah.
how people might react, of how it'll make me feel. Like, what are some
Mm.
thoughts you have on that you could offer?
Yeah, I think, like, when I first started, I had no idea I was going to share it. For me, it was more just, I'll just write. So, I mean, I don't think any decisions need to be made up front that, this is going to be for others' eyes. It can be for your eyes only, or just you and a select few. So I think that can take away some of that trepidation of, should I do it or not? Um, I think if you're a person that keeps things in, it's a really good way to let things out. The writing process. I know that I could write things that I couldn't talk about. So I think it can be very useful if that's your situation. And just, I would just say, try it and see. I mean, start with a memory. Maybe go to a memory, or something impactful that's happened as a part of your story. Just write about that first, like a little short story or a snippet, and see how that feels. And then go from there. And not everybody needs to do it, or, but I think, as much as it helped me, I feel like everybody should do it, but not everybody needs to. But yeah, I just think I strongly recommend giving it a try.
Oh, that's amazing, Barbara. And what like how now that you're published, people have been reading it. What are your thoughts on, I mean, this journey of writing,
Mm,
and what are there any pitfalls that you would kind of, hey, when I was doing this, I didn't think of this for the
mm.
audience.
Yeah, I often say this when people say, "Wow, you wrote a book. That's quite interesting," or "That's cool." I say the same thing to everyone. Writing that book was the best thing I have ever done in my life. Of all the
Mhm.
things I've done, accomplished, whatever, gotten through, that is by far the best thing I have ever done. So, um, I can own that, and that's mine. Then I would also say, I almost have felt, since I got it published and it's out and people have read it, I feel like I'm basking in this glow of just, it's off my shoulders. I'm not carrying the baggage of this story, in the hurtful ways. I've released it. And I definitely feel like I'm walking with a skip in my step. I'm walking lighter. I'm living lighter. I feel a brightness. I feel less weighed down. And I I just can't tell you that that has been solid since I've and every time I hear someone else reach out and say, "Hey, I read your book and it impacted me," this is what I noticed. It made me feel like it's like, oh, I just feel it all over again. It's like I just feel like I'm on top of the world. So it's only been good since I had it published.
That's amazing, Barbara. And before we go to the Q&A and the video or recorded portion of it, is there a way that you could read an excerpt from your book for the audience? I know
Oh
we're
wow.
going to be having another, for anybody watching, we're going to have another interview where Barbara's going to be talking about the book, her content in the book. This was more about the process of writing a book. So it would honor us if you would be willing to do that.
Yeah, I will. The first thing that came to mind is I was fortunate to be at an event for local authors in my city. That people came and then they read an excerpt from their book, and I was invited to read an excerpt there. And that was back in April of last year. And I'll just share the same excerpt with you guys because it just seemed the right thing to share. And to give you a little pretense of what I'm writing about here is it was the first time I ever was able to see a picture of my birth mother. Um, okay, I'll just go ahead and start. In the fall of 2019, I get a hit on my 23andMe account. A second cousin DNA match, Cheryl, messaged me, sharing she had been hard at work putting together family tree information and stumbling upon our connection was baffled to who I was. She asked me many questions that I had no idea how to answer. I knew she was related to me on my maternal side, so I shared with her that I was given up for adoption at birth and knew very little about who my birth mother was. I provided her approximate age along with a few other details that I was aware of. She came back intrigued, and over the next several weeks, we emailed each other many times as she was seemed to be on a mission to discover who my birth mother was. Early on, she pondered, the age best matches my cousin Heather, but it couldn't be her. She never married nor had children. When I read this, I innately knew it was her. Never marrying nor having children somehow confirmed it in my heart, because that was my path as well. How else am I just like her? Cheryl shared this news with the rest of her family, and they all agreed that it could not be Heather, convinced that if a pregnancy and birth had occurred, they'd know about it. They asked me to gather more proof. This was very challenging due to the circumstances to which adoptions were conducted in the 60s, with records being sealed and no identifying information being shared. I registered online through the Los Angeles County Bureau of Adoptions and requested any further information I was legally privy to. Apparently, with the explosion of databases, Ancestry.com and 23andMe, they were flooded with requests. I waited a year and 4 months to hear back from them. Once I did, I shared a few significant details with Heather's family. She lived in Southern California. She had one brother. She would have been 21 years old when she gave birth to me. She worked at the time as a Girl Friday and enjoyed writing and liked raising tropical fish. These details, along with other information about where she lived and grew up, confirmed it was indeed Heather. She apparently hid her pregnancy from everyone and took her secret to the grave. Sadly, Heather had died several years earlier at the age of 60 from cholangiocarcinoma, a rare cancer found in the bile duct of the liver. During the same time, one of my long-standing clients, Scott, who happened to be a huge ancestry buff, successfully putting together family trees for both he and his wife's family, was in for his monthly haircut. He had figured out how to use the information that Ancestry.com offered to dig up results. I would share these stories with him when he came in, and he was always so intrigued. He asked me, have you seen a picture of her yet? I had not, nor did I know how to go about finding one. By now, I had done my share of Googling her name again and again, but the previous, nothing other than previous addresses came up. Scott was pretty confident. Give me 24 hours and I'll find you a photo. You're on, Scott. Checking email on my phone, I see Scott has sent me something. Picture, read in the subject line. He did it. And it didn't even take him 24 hours. I feel the weight of what's in front of me, and I nervously move to sit down. I open the email, and there she was. Sorry. Her picture jumped off my phone and startled me. Again, how do you recognize a face you've never seen before? I looked more like her than I did Ruben, and I looked a lot like Ruben. It was her high school graduation photo, so young and fresh with the world at her feet. Her hair color and texture, her lips and smile, they were all mine. Looking at her picture took my breath away, and I literally felt like I was going to faint. Staring at her photo for hours, I couldn't get enough. My eyes had waited a long time to gaze upon her face, and I couldn't do anything but soak her in. I had to start work at noon and was struggling to get ready, moving about in complete shock. Getting into the shower, her image is now burned in my brain. I couldn't picture anything else. Physically, I didn't feel right. I began breathing hard, then harder. It's almost like I was hyperventilating and couldn't quite calm myself down. I reached out to hold on to the towel bar in front of me, and out of nowhere, I screamed. It came from my toes all the way up through my legs, hips, stomach, heart, and arms. I screamed loud and long, crying out to the picture in my head. You were supposed to be mine, and I was supposed to be yours. I held on to that towel bar, sobbing and screaming for quite some time. It was so out of character for me, and I'm still shocked by it. I certainly didn't choose to respond this way. I'm anything but a tantrum thrower. But there was something inside me overriding my will. Somehow I mustered the strength to get myself together and work on clients all day. The weeks that followed brought their share of despair as I processed who my birth mother was. That's it.
Oh, thank you, Barbara.
You're welcome.
That's,
Still makes me emotional, that memory, but it was the start of a good thing.
oh, I'm honored, and I thank the guest that's present that asked for a reading. So I'm glad we were able to include it in the recording.
Yes. Happy to. Happy to.
Well, thank you, Barbara. We're going to be having another interview with Greg Gentry on your book covering the material. I hate to say material because it's your life, it's your heart.
That's okay.
Covering that. And I'm so excited. For the audience who is here right now, please stay. We're just going to end the recording so we can do the question and answers. It's that way it stays confidential in case anybody has anything really personal to share. So thank you everybody for coming. Please stay and I will end the recording. Thank you.